In the heart of an ancient African village where the sun painted the earth in hues of gold and the acacia trees whispered secrets to the wind, a dusty road stretched like a forgotten promise. Along this path walked a child, small and alone, their bare feet kicking up clouds of red earth. No hand held theirs, no voice called their name. The world was vast and unkind, and the child, an orphan, carried only the tattered clothes on their back and a heart heavy with silence. Nights were cruel. The stars glittered coldly above, and hunger clawed at their belly like a restless beast. Yet even in the deepest shadows of loneliness, flickers of light began to pierce the darkness. A farmer, his hands rough from toil, slipped the child a warm piece of bread, its crust still fragrant from the fire. An old woman, her eyes crinkled with time, left a worn blanket by her doorstep, as if by accident. These small gestures, fleeting as a breeze, were lifelines to the child, tiny seeds of hope planted in a barren heart. As years turned the child into a quiet young soul, survival alone felt hollow. They yearned for belonging, for a place among the laughter and chatter of the village. So they began to give back in humble ways. They fetched water from the distant well for elders whose backs bent under the weight of years. They gathered firewood for mothers juggling infants and chores. They chased after wandering goats, their laughter mingling with the bleats as they guided them home. At first, the villagers offered only polite nods, unsure of this orphan who moved like a shadow among them. But slowly, something shifted. They noticed the child's tireless work, the sincerity in their eyes that spoke of a wisdom far beyond their years. Each day brought new lessons. The blacksmith, his forge glowing like a captured sun, taught them patience as they hammered iron into tools. The village healer, her fingers stained with the green of crushed herbs, shared secrets of plants that could mend wounds or cool fevers. The storyteller, his voice a river of history, filled their mind with tales of brave warriors, cunning tricksters, and sacrifices that bound the village together. These lessons didn't just build skills, they carved character, shaping the orphan into someone steady, someone trusted. Trust, once a whisper behind closed doors, became a visible thread weaving through the village. When a task needed doing, a fence to mend, a dispute to settle, eyes began to turn toward the orphan who had once been invisible. They were no longer just a child surviving. They were a presence, a quiet force of good. Then came the day that tested not just the orphan, but the soul of the village itself. The rains failed. For weeks, the sky mocked the earth with its emptiness, and the ground cracked like a broken promise. Wells dwindled to muddy puddles, crops withered into brittle stalks, and tempers flared like wildfires. Families quarreled over scraps of food and sips of water, their voices sharp with fear. In the heart of this desperation, the orphan did the unthinkable. Instead of fighting for their own survival, they sought a solution for all. With a voice calm but resolute, they rallied the village youth to dig a new well closer to the riverbed, where the earth still held whispers of moisture. They divided the sparse grain, ensuring no child went to bed hungry. When arguments erupted, their words, soft but heavy with truth, quelled anger before it could fracture the community. One evening, as the village gathered beneath a sky bruised with the colors of a fading sunset, a miracle happened. Water, clear and cool, burst from the new well, sparkling like a gift from the ancestors. Cheers erupted, drums pounded, and laughter filled the air. But amid the celebration, something deeper took root: respect. The orphan, once unseen, had proven not just strength, but wisdom. Time passed, and the child who once walked alone became the one the village turned to. A farmer sought their advice on when to plant millet. A mother asked for guidance when her child's fever wouldn't break. Young boys, their faces streaked with dirt from play, called them to settle their quarrels. Each time the orphan, now grown, responded with patience, humility, and a thoughtfulness that seemed to hold the village together. They never sought power, never raised their voice.
And perhaps that was why their words carried such weight. Soon, the village saw them not just as a helper, but as a guide. When families clashed over land, the orphan mediated with fairness. When decisions about trade or festivals loomed, their opinion was sought like a compass. Even the gray-haired elders, their faces etched with the stories of decades, nodded in agreement when they spoke. What made their wisdom shine was not authority, but empathy. They had known the ache of hunger, so they fought for the poor. They had felt the sting of loneliness, so they listened without judgment. They had lived at the margins, so they never forgot the dignity of those still struggling. Without seeking it, the orphan had become something greater, not by birthright, but by service. They had become the village's elder. Years rolled on, and the once forgotten child became the heart of the village. Under their guidance, the community flourished. Families who once quarreled now shared meals under the stars. Children grew up on stories of resilience and kindness, not war or loss. Travelers passing through marveled at the harmony, asking, "Who leads this place?" The villagers would point, not to a chief draped in wealth, but to a humble elder sitting beneath an ancient baobab tree, surrounded by children, weaving wisdom into stories that danced like firelight. The orphan's life had come full circle, from isolation to belonging, from despair to leadership. Their legacy was not gold or stone, but a village transformed by love, empathy, and service. When people spoke of them, they didn't say, "That was our elder." They said, "That was the soul of our village." Their story, carried on the wind, became a living reminder: true greatness is not born of titles or wealth, but of the courage to endure, the humility to serve, and the compassion to lift others up. The orphan who once had nothing became the elder who gave everything. So, what legacy are you building with your life? Share this tale with someone who needs hope today, and let it echo. The smallest acts of kindness can ripple through generations, transforming hearts and villages alike.